if you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Good morning and welcome to the CRCS, also called the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Pardon me, something got in my throat. We thank you for listening to today's program or tuning into today's program. And, of course, if you have a question or a comment, then you know what to do. Well, first of all, the number is 516-453-9921. When you do that, make sure that you press the number 1 button and just wait until someone comes to the phone and then give them your name, please, so that I can properly give you the introduction to or the number, and I can give you a proper introduction to the show. So please make sure that you do that. Pardon me, allergies seem to, I call them my friends, seem to be wanting me to attack me here at game time, but we're going to go over that. Forget that. You can join the chat room, and we would like for you to do that. Oh, yeah, let me do this. Yeah, first-time callers, you do the same thing, but make sure that you tell the person on the other end that you are a first-time caller, and you go to a priority status, and you will be heard. You can also join the chat room, as Kufalani just did, or I think I pronounced it right. Emery Lumumba is in there. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, and you want to click on where it says programs. And the programs that you want is the Produce Justice Show. You click on that, and then the chat room becomes available, and then you can get into the chat room. And there usually are some very good comments or questions in there, good substance that you can learn something from that. And occasionally I will lift a comment from there and have it for discussion. We can do that. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY @gmail.com. And I must say that we have a lot of Gmails, and I'm going to try to get to them, as many as I can. It will not be on this show. It looks like it's going to be over several shows, but I will make an effort to get to those Gmails. Some good questions in there, so we'll try to do that. And I think that is it. The book that Mr. Fuller will be discussing, as you know, there's a code book, commonly called a code book, but for those who need a title, it's the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept that you can get by going to producejustice.com. That is producejustice.com. You can do that. And all of the issues that we were having have been resolved. So when you write or call in and order the book, there, to my understanding, are no more problems. That came down from the top. It's all gone, all over with. So it's all being handled. So that's a good thing. Okay. I believe that's it for that. Let me do this. Let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay. Now, before I get to the thoughts and expressions on your mind this morning, Mr. Fuller, MS did write in, and before we get to your thoughts and expressions. This is what he wrote. I thought I would start this show off by saying this. Let me see here. Let me make sure I get it. Okay. He says, "Hello, Mr. Bobby. It's me again. Tell Mr. Fuller, thank you for the priority status. I felt uncomfortable about my statement and what Mr. Fuller said about never getting around to reading Dr. Francis Cresswell's book, and I hear the discomfort in his verbal response. So, as a gesture of goodwill, I would like to pay Mr. Fuller's rent for 1 month. Please inform Mr. Fuller of my request and contact me on how to make this possible." So when I wrote back to him, I did tell him that I asked him for his permission that I could read that over the air to you, Mr. Fuller, and then he said that would be very nice. You care to respond to that, Mr. Fuller?
Well, I appreciate his offer, but the code does not allow me, as far as what I have adopted, to receive donations. And so I just won't have the time anyway, as far as someone reading me anybody's book or words. I won't have, time to do that. And my concentration wouldn't be that good at any one time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I do appreciate the offer.
Okay.
In fact, any offer I get from anybody of any kind of help to give me, my only response according to the code is that you can have somebody read my book.
Okay.
But I always want people to consider having Dr. Francis Welson's book.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And making that purchase.
Okay.
Because she helped me a lot to get in fact, almost totally, my book is in existence because of her helping, donating her time and money to me getting it out.
Okay.
Because I didn't have very much of either when I was trying to get out the first copy.
Yes, sir.
The first original 1984 edition.
Yes, sir.
But in response to that, I do repeat that I appreciate the offer.
Okay. Let me be clear. It wasn't so much about purchasing the book. He said that because of your response to his question about, or your response to not having the time to read her book or whatever it was, he said he felt badly about the way that you responded. He felt bad, and he said that as a gesture, he would like to pay your rent for a month. He wanted to make up for that because he felt badly for that. I think he felt, if I'm not mistaken, I think he felt that he offended you or something like that, and he was trying to make that up. That's all. That's all he was saying.
No, I'm not offended by anything that anybody ever says.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I
just want to be...
Yes. And I want to make this clear for everybody else. Whatever you say, I am not offended. And the reason why is because I follow the code on that, and that is you listen to what everybody has to say.
Okay.
And, and evaluate it and you make a decision about whether it's useful in being educated or not.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Well, okay, we just want to get that straight because, like I said, this is what he wanted to do, and you responded. He asked me if for that, and he wanted to do that, but you already took care of that. So thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, MS. And keep on listening, my brother. You still have a priority status opening, by the way, MS. Okay, Mr. Fuller, thoughts and expressions. What's on your mind to start off this today's program?
That these, I think the person was Charles Dickens, in A Tale of Two Cities, a book that was written many years ago. And I think I got it correct. Most of the times I don't. But I think it was Charles Dickens. I never read the novel, which is what it was. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. And I think that was the first words in the way the book started off, if I recall correctly. But I never read that book, The Tale of Two Cities. But that line has been repeated more and more and more over the years, because that was the first line mentioned in the book. It was the worst of times, or rather it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And when you think about that, which I have thought about it many times, you can say that about any time, because it's always true, I believe. So that's what I think we're really, in capital letters, going through right about this time, for sure. In other words, it's the same old thing, the best of times and the worst times at the same time. Okay? That could have been added.
Okay.
So we go with that. So, people throughout the world, particularly black people, non-white people, should concentrate on planning for the worst situations they can imagine with the circumstances that they have. Plan on what you are going to do about that. When the worst things happen, because, starting off this morning, you have one situation, and by noon today, or from an hour from now, or 15 minutes from now, you can find yourself in the very worst situation. So make all your plans based on anything what we call bad or terrible or awful can happen at any time. I think about that. I mean, right now, this morning, here in September of 2024, anything can happen at any moment, and I have to be mentally and physically, to the best of my ability, prepared for it. Well, I knew it was coming. All right. Yes. And that's in every area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Plan on, within sometime before this day is over, the worst possible things that can happen that involves you, directly or indirectly, can happen, and try to have an immediate plan for it. Okay?
Absolutely.
But at the same time, think of the best that can happen can happen.
Mm-hmm.
See, so keep that hope alive,
Mm-hmm.
as Reverend Jackson would say, Jesse Jackson.
That's right.
And that's what's on my mind.
That's what's on my mind.
Plan for the worst.
Very good.
Have a plan. Have a plan for the worst things that you think can happen involving you. But at the same time, the very best can happen. Because that's going on right now.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. One of the reasons why I'm thanking you, because those that know me, you used a word in your statement there, and that is as far as I am concerned, a prophetic word, and that word that was laid in my heart. I mean my mind. That's the heart I'm talking about. Was that word preparation, being prepared, being prepared. And
an old Boy Scout motto.
Yeah, well, this comes from a higher source than that. But anyway, so you are exactly correct about being prepared. And I want to go back to a statement I made maybe about 4 or 5 programs. I haven't forgotten. I told everybody, and you had mentioned it on the program even before that, about wills and trust. Well, I took that very seriously, and I told the people on a program. And Brother Talik had something to say about that, too, in another way. I'm in the process right now of preparing that, knowing the difference between the will and the trust, the state of trust, and the, a state attorney and so forth, to get those things together. Preparation is the word. We don't like to talk about that, but understanding what to do and what not to do. So when Mr. Fuller says preparation, that's in all areas of people activity concerning you. Be prepared. And when I get full information, then I will disclose some steps, as time permitted, and as if Mr. Fuller will permit me to do that at that time. But it's ongoing. I do have a person and consultants working in that area, but it's something that we all must do at some time in order to be prepared for anything that could or may happen in life. So be prepared. Not to scare anybody, but you got to be prepared. Anyway, those that know me know that is prophetic. Okay, number 2. Let me address this, and then we'll get right to the phone call. This is for Victor from Canada. Victor, I read your Gmail, and you said this is Victor from Canada. Again, I just wanted to share the news about our special author, Neely Fuller Jr. I had a question. I'm communicating Mr. Fuller's ideas and concept in a constructive way for a constructive result. Let me know if I could do it in a more effective way. Please also let me know. Thank you, sir. Victor, I'm going to say this to you because you call in quite a bit, and Mr. Fuller is very consistent on what he has told you what to do. And I listened to the Carl Nelson show, and you called in again and basically asked the same question, and Mr. Fuller gave you the same answer. So out of respect for you, I'm giving you the same thing that Mr. Fuller already told you what to do. You know what to do, and I'm reading it, so you know what to do, Victor, on how to communicate the ideas of the compensatory concept. So there you go, Victor. Okay, with that being said, let's do this. Let's go to New York City. And it's going to be Blacktop. Get prepared, Blacktop. Everybody else, Cleo and Corey, y'all get prepared too. All right, Blacktop, let me see if I can get you in. And you are there, Blacktop. Go ahead with your question for Mr. Fuller.
How you doing today, Mr. Fuller?
Good, sir.
How you doing, Mr. Fuller?
I'm still learning.
So I had a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Here's my question. How do we address the non-white people, the young non-white people today who are not attracted to other non-white people in the realm of dating?
I didn't hear that last part.
Okay, so I'm going to try again. How do we address young non-white people who talk about how they are not attracted to other non-white people in the realm
that they are not attracted to other non-white people?
In the realm of dating, yes.
In the realm of dating?
Or the eighth area of activity, I'll say that.
Yeah, in the realm of sex. Oh,
correct.
Under the system of white supremacy, that's the white supremacists have influenced them to be that way. We want to look like, them, and, because there's benefits that go with that. And so that's how you address it, based on the truth. The white supremacists dominate our minds. We're not an alien people to them. They are an alien people to us. That's the white supremacists we're dealing with. So any flaws that we have that are made, and we all have flaws, we're born with flaws, but they are made greater by our flaw master here on earth, and that is the white supremacists. And so the way that we think, we got to always consider, where are my thoughts coming from? Where are my values coming from? The things that I think are important. I think carjacking is important, and I should be one, a carjacker. Where did I get that? Was I born thinking that? I come out of my mother's womb thinking what I need to be right now is somewhere jacking cars. I'm wasting time laying up here asking for help. I want to make somebody else ask me for help. And I may give it to them and I may not. And take the car and shoot them in the process and feel good about it. Where do we get that? So anything in the field of dating, to answer the question directly, where did it come from? Where were we taught to have these type of feelings based on whatever these feelings are about? And that is a start right there. But the main question we should ask, does this come from the white supremacists? These thoughts I'm having right now. Because if they did, and most likely they directly or indirectly have come from them, is it going to be a, what? 2 words to always keep in mind, every breath that you breathe. Is it going to produce a constructive result?
Okay. All right, Blacktop.
Can I stay on the line, please?
Yes, you may, sir. Thank you very, very much. Let me do a Gmail here. I'm trying to get them in here. See, no names mentioned. Okay. Anyway, this person wanted to know this, Mr. Fuller. Says, hi, I want to know, in Mr. Fuller's opinion, if the system of white supremacy in the 1950s and 60s was more blunt, then he parenthesized the word honest. The reason I'm asking is that I'm considered a part of the millennial generation, grew up in the 2000s, and in my opinion, most whites in the millennial generation are just as racist as those from the 50s and 60s. An example of this is that in high school, most students segregated by race in the cafeteria. Thank you. Mr. Fuller, your response? Okay.
Yes. The answer, yes. The system of white supremacy just changes in style. That's the basic thing that changes. and it's all varieties of change. So, without even putting the conversation within a framework, you might say, it's just white supremacy is white supremacy is white supremacy, regardless of the style. White supremacy goes through stages, 4 stages according to the code. Establishment, that's number 1, that's getting it started. Number 2, maintaining it. And once you invent something, that's the start of it, then you maintain, just like a car, what you invent, and then you expand the ways that you go about using it. Expansion, the system of white supremacy goes through an expansion period, meaning gathering more people within it. There's more people on the planet now than there was back in the 1950s. So it's more people, white and non-white. So the white supremacists immediately take all the non-white people and put them under their jurisdiction. That's expansion right there. And then the 4th stage is refining what you have invented, going back to the 1st stage. So as long as we have had white supremacy, we've had white supremacy. That's just another way of saying it. The only thing that has changed, basically, is style.
Okay. All righty. That was from the Gmail. As you know, I'm trying to get those in because you wouldn't believe how many we have, but we'll get them in. Tell you what, we're going to take a little break here, so let's do this. You are listening to the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and we thank you. And for those who have just tuned in, again, here's the number that you can call, 516-453-9921, and press the number 1 button if you have a question, and wait for the person on the other end to address you. And then when you do, please, ma'am, please, sir, make sure that you give them your name so that Mr. Bobby can properly give you an introduction without butchering up your name, which I have a terrible habit of doing, but I'm really working on to be better. All right. First-time caller, you do the same thing, but just when you do that, please tell the person on the other end that you are a first-time caller, and you go into the priority status, not a penalty box. No, you will not be penalized. You will go into a priority status, and while you're in there, jokingly, have a piece of cherry pie. Okay. You can also do this. You can join the chat room. How you do that? Just go to blogtalkradio.com and click on where it says you want the program menu. And when you do, the program that you want to get when you click on is the Produce Justice Show. You click on that, and when you do, I think it's to the right. There's a little box over there where it says chat. And that's how you enter into the chat room, and you get in there, and you go to town. There are a few people in there today. Thank you, Be Good One, and Chad Kenyatta's there. Of course, Emery Lumumba's always there. Kaifulani is there, and Seyshatas is there, number 7, with some very good information, particularly about what Professor Eddie Glaude had to say about Mr. Fuller. I'm still shaking my head about that. It's kind of difficult for me to listen to him, but I do hear what he has to say sometimes when he is on MSNBC. But it reminds me of that song, Every Brother is Not a Brother, or what, Skin Folk or Not Kinfolk, or however that goes. But anyway, but The concept says that he's entitled to say what he wants to say, so I can't hold that against him. But anyway, you can do that. And also, you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby. That's right, 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY @gmail.com. And you can join the long list of those who are on the Gmail list. And at a point in time, I will read them and go on. If you go to our website, which is at producejustice.com, where you can also pick up the books, listen, no issues. They have been resolved. You can also pick up, I was told this morning that Mr. Fuller's interview on the Carl Nelson show, I believe there's one, there might be two, but I was told that it is on there, so you can give that a listen if you'd like to at producejustice.com. And also that's where you get the books at producejustice.com and any other relevant information, including but not limited to past shows. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's continue with the program here, and hope I'm not missing anything. Let's go down to Houston and Cleo. Oh, yeah, chomping at the bit. Cleo, let me see. Let me move this cursor over here. Okay, Cleo, you are on. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Long live NFJ and forever live Logic. Thank you, Mr. Bobby and the entire CRCS crew for your ongoing partnership with Mr. Fuller in this very important life work. Mr. NFJ, if we were to develop a code wherein we stop identifying or allowing ourselves to be identified by racial classifications such as black and white, and instead only identify and or allow ourselves to be identified as a being, person, or people, could such a code help to end racism, white supremacy, and replace it with a system of justice?
Yes, all suggestions are valid if they produce what? The most constructive results.
Mm-hmm.
That's the criteria. Not Neely Fuller, not what he writes and says. The criteria, is it more constructive than what we're doing now? Whatever that is. Like Confucius said, or reported to have said, life is simple. Men make it complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I read recently. And that's basically it. That's what codification is all about. You're open to all ideas and inventions and ways of going about doing things that produce constructive results. So that's why a part of the code is that one person shouldn't criticize another person's attempts to produce constructive results. You just repeat what they said and see what people think about it, and then do it if it works to meet that criteria, not Neely Fuller Jr.'s criteria or anybody else's. No, does it produce constructive results? So in answer to the question, yes, try that and see if it what? Produces constructive results. That's the only criteria. Yes. In regard to what anybody says about anything, what their status is, and how many people know them, or how popular they are. No, constructive results.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's going to be constructive or non-constructive. Always go with constructive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Was that it there, Cleo, down there in Houston?
Yes, Mr. Bobby, I did just want to ask Mr. Fuller, in light of that controversial statement that made the gentleman feel bad regarding his inquiry about Mr. Fuller reading Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's book, I did want to ask Mr. Fuller if he thought it would be or lead to constructive results if he were to find time and to prioritize reading her book, given that he has spent over 40, 50 years putting his mind to the task of solving the problem of racism, white supremacy. Could it be that if he read her book, there's something she said or stated in that book that could ignite a thought, an ideal that furthers his codes and his concepts that helps us to expedite ending this unjust system quicker?
Fuller, Mr. Fuller?
It could be, but this is true. And the code requires me to do that. I consider everything that everybody says, including all the white people and the white people who speak against black people, as producing constructive results for me as far as what we call, quote, unquote, freedom of speech. I listen to everybody because that's what the code requires. So
yes,
I've heard a whole lot of Dr. Frances Welsing's speeches, and she speaks not just from her book, but from her views. And I've heard, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, I don't know whether the caller knows it or not, has made many speeches, many more than I ever have, that are out here on recordings. And I've heard her speak in person so many times, over and over and over and over again. All right, and she's heard me speak many times, over and over and over again. So I don't think it's anything. I'm sure that there are things in her book that I've heard her repeat.
Yes.
Over and over and over again, and there are some things, like in anybody's book, books anybody's written, that I would just never get to. And I think that's kind of normal. I have a bookshelf that's just groaning, with books. They're so heavy, with books, the shelves themselves, that I'll never get to. And some of them I've read, some of them thoroughly, and others I haven't even touched and would like to get to right this minute while I'm here. At this moment. But I just touched the book as far as putting it on the shelf, and I look at them often, the covers of them, and pick them up and put them back. But I have not read what's in those books, and I regret it. And it would be the same thing with Dr. Welsing. But I don't think, it's just the best that I can do. I can only read so much.
That's right. That's right.
And if I'm being asked to just sit down and read her book, the ISIS papers, from cover to cover, and try to retain what I read, that probably wouldn't happen anyway.
Yes.
No more than it does when I read other people's work.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I have that sitting on my in my reading room or in my other office. I have a copy of that. And even when I spoke with her, spoke about that, and you, as a matter of fact, when I did talk to her on the telephone. All right, Cleo. Let me see here. Did that sufficiently cover your question, my brother?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Bobby. I appreciate it.
All right, and thank you for being a loyal listener. Thank you very much. Listen, people, serious about that. The one thing about one of the opening things that Mr. Fuller talked about, which I got out of that, which is very prophetic for me, is preparation. That was given to me on a spiritual level, and I communicated with God about that, and that's one of the things that He gave me is preparation. And I remembered that I had said that I would address what Mr. Fuller had talked about in previous programs, wills and so forth, and I did do that and have done that. And I said that I would give you updated information as I do that. You have to understand that there are different kinds of wills and different kinds of trust. For example, a living trust. You need to find out what that is and how to put your stuff in a living trust so that you won't get taxed. Yeah, that T word. Have to deal with probate and all that stuff. This is why you need a professional or someone that is skilled in knowing a state attorney or whatever. Yes, it's going to cost you, but we have to be prepared for what might happen and what might not happen. Got to be balanced in that. So just keep that in mind as you do whatever thing it is that you have to do. Okay, let's go to Milwaukee. You know who that is. By the way, that person in the 916 area code, in that area code 202, and not Mr. Fuller, please give your name here to the person that's going to answer your phone so I can give you an introduction. But right now, Milwaukee is Corey calling. All right, Corey, let me see here. Okay, Corey, you are there. All right, Corey. Good morning.
Grand Rising, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Mr. Fuller, I wanted to ask you a suggestion of what I should do. I was involved in getting some grant money to do a community project. The person I was a partner with in receiving this money is a suspected white supremacist. I fulfilled my obligation, but this person misappropriated the funds. He took the money, and the entire project was not able to be fulfilled because of that. Mr. Fuller, do I inform the grantors of this money and everyone that I can of this injustice, or do I do nothing?
Whatever will produce the most constructive result. You might have to talk to somebody else about it, about the details of it, and all like that, and see what people think. But it's mostly based on what you think should be done, because if you think an injustice has been done, any transaction between white people and non-white people should be, generally speaking, according to the code, public knowledge. That's anything constructive or anything that's non-constructive. And so whatever will best produce the most constructive result is what you should do. Think about all of the options that you have, just like you're asking me, But I would have to know all the details of what all the transactions were about and how they were conducted. And so all you have to do, according to the code, is just think about whether or not you should pursue it or drop the whole issue, and you just think about for the future, because that's all you have now, because everything else has been done up to this point, and say, what should I do next? that will produce the most constructive result. Should I denounce the person publicly? And will that produce the most constructive result? Or should I just drop it and consider it to be a lesson, that I have learned not to do that no more? Or should I try to get my money back? And you should consider all of these things and just think about it. It's all about balance. What you want, and what you think will produce the most constructive result if you do what you want to do. Now, if what you want to do, if you think, this is not going to work for me in the future, it'll work against me if I do this and this and this. But just go through the list of things that you can do. Let's sit down and make up a list. And then make up a list of what you should do that's separate from that list, connected to it, but it's in a separate column, that you think will produce the most constructive result, and then do that. Always think of those two words. What do I do now that will produce the most constructive result? And that's it. But in order for me to answer the question about the details of it, I would have to know everything about it, which I don't have the time, and really most likely wouldn't have the ability to go into all of that.
Alrighty. Let me see. Wait a minute. Oops. All right, Corey, did that answer your question? I'm trying to get you in here, but wait a minute.
Yes.
Something. Oh, okay, Corey. Thank you so much.
Yes, I definitely want to know. Anytime somebody asks me a question, I want to know, did I answer the question?
Yeah, okay, got it. All right. Thank you, Corey.
Yes, it answered the question. I appreciate you, Mr. Fuller.
All right, Corey. Thank you so much. All righty. Excuse me. Thank you, Torrance, out in Sacramento, for having your name slip in. The person in the 202, not Mr. Fuller, because Mr. Fuller is on. So somebody else in the 202, make sure you give the person your name so that I can do that. Before I get to you, Terrence, let me do this. Again, no names mentioned. Says this, Mr. Fuller. Hi, I wanted to know if in Mr. Fuller's opinion, if mixed relationships are equivalent of slavery. The reason I'm asking is that in the concept of the city Miami, a BM, I guess that's black male, hated that BF, black females, was stabbed to death by his WF partner, even though there's evidence that she called him the N-word in an argument that was posted to TMZ. Thanks.
Well, name calling shouldn't call for anybody being harmed. Just explain what you mean by the name. Talk about it. That's all. If I'm getting the question correctly, which I usually don't, but that's my fault. If I understand the question, according to the code, name calling shouldn't lead to conflict. It should calling somebody calls someone a name under any circumstance, you should, according to the code, have a conversation about what the word means, or the words, whatever was spoken, and should they have been or should they not have been, based on three things. What is the definition of the words used in the name calling? If the N word is used, what do you mean by that? Are you calling me that? And what should be done for or against or about the name being called? Just three things. What does the word mean? Are you calling me that by that word, if I'm getting the question correctly? What does that name mean? If it's the N word, I'll give an example. The way the code says to always respond. What does that word mean? Are you calling me that word? That's the second thing. And number three, what should be done to, for, with, against the person whose name or title is that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's in the code book.
That is in the code book.
It comes under name calling. But when names are being called, if a person calls you a MF, you say, what does that mean? That's number one. Number two is, are you calling me by that name? And number three, what should be done with, for, against, etc., a person who is the name being called in the story? Just three questions.
Okay.
And after that, you just say, if you're going to say anything at all, I'll think about it.
You think about it.
If you're going to respond, yes. If you're going to respond. If I'm working in an office and a white person calls me the N-word, I just say, what's that? And then the next thing I want to know, logically speaking, is why are you calling me that?
Mm-hmm.
And then the third thing is, what should be done with, for, against a person who is that? And then if they give you an answer, then you say, thank you very much. I don't care what the name is.
Okay.
How you do it, and how you call it.
That's the codified response.
I mean, who's around listening and all like that. Hey, that's the codified way.
Okay. All righty. Okay. We'll do that. Okay.
The person is giving you information.
Yeah.
When they call you an N-word.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just say, I've received your information and I'll think about it.
Yeah, I'll think about it. Yeah, I call it intelligence. I'm receiving some intelligence.
Yes, right. I mean, you're learning.
Yeah.
I always say, I'm still learning, you know.
Yeah.
I learned something today, you know.
Okay. All righty. We'll do this. Okay. Oh, yeah. Let me do this. got a new caller alert. This is, looks like it says Zay, Z-A-Y, from D.C. All right, Zay. Sorry about that, Terrence. I'll get to you probably on the other side. But let me do this. Zay, Z-A-Y, D.C., you are on with Mr. Fuller. Good morning. What is your question?
Hi, good
Hello?
morning, Mr. Neely. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I have about 2 or 3 questions, but I'll start with how are you doing this morning?
Okay. How am I doing this morning?
Yes, sir.
I'm still learning.
Okay, question number 2.
Yeah. Well, so would it be fair to look at avoiding the pitfalls of all 9 areas of the human, activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor and law, politics, religion, sex, and war? Would it kind of be like dodgeball, trying as a melanated person to not fall victim to within any one of those categories? Would it?
The question is what?
Would it be like dodgeball for like melanated people to try to avoid the pitfalls of any 9 of the human activity areas that you list?
Maybe Mr. Bobby can help me out on that.
Well, she was speaking about in the 9 areas of people activity, something about is it possible to avoid some?
To avoid, yes. Mm-hmm. Because it'll be hard to avoid.
It's hard to avoid what?
Falling basically a victim to one of the aspects within the 9 realms of human activities that you list.
Do you understand that question, Mr. Bobby?
I don't understand it, but I can only put it this way, and correct me if I'm wrong, Zay. Logically speaking, Mr. Fuller, in the 9 areas of people activity, we know that we're going to face these areas whether we realize it or not. It's impossible, logically speaking, to avoid what's going to happen in any of those 9 areas of people activity.
Well, if I understand the question, you're here in the universe, and you're having experiences, and so if I understand the question and it gives the correct answer according to the code, whatever experiences you're having, by any label you want to put on them, it just means that you try to respond to your experiences in a way that produces the most constructive result in everything. That's what the whole code is about. Just how you respond to your environment each and every minute of each and every day. What's going on? And it comes right down to it. What to do and say, or do or say, or even what to think about what to do or say about whatever is happening to you or around you every minute of every day. That's all the code is about. With the intention on your part of trying to speak and or act after you think about it in a manner that will produce the most constructive result in the circumstances that you're in, if I understand the question.
Yes.
And that's what the code is about. I just gave an example. I gave an example with the name calling. All right? And it's right there in the textbook.
Yeah.
You just try to do what will produce the most constructive result.
Yeah. Yes. Let me say this, Mr. Fuller. Zay, let me say this. Because you are a first-time caller, the procedure or the protocol is that you ask one question at a time, and then you give Mr. Fuller the opportunity to answer your question. The reason why he does that is to avoid confusion. Now, I know you have. I think you said you have a lot of. There's something in the background, but I'm trying to be clear here. I know you said that you have a lot of what?
A clarification question, because I recall Mr. Fuller Jr. once stating that within the economics branch there's labor and energy. So I wanted to ask, was labor out of the 9 human areas, would that potentially be under economics? Or, you know what I'm saying? Because it was one time that he did describe, when he was describing economics, he included labor as well as energy within that. So would labor be a subsection also, or am I looking at it? I don't know. I'm sorry.
According to the code, all of the 9 areas of activity are interactive. You can take any one of those suggestions made in one activity and put it in any of the other activities. Because everything that a person does, just like a person's body, your kidneys are part of everything else. Your heart is a part of your kidneys. Your brain is a part of your hand. There's a connection there. So you can just switch them around in a way. In fact, you can call your brain your hand. And you can call your hand your brain. See, that's what the code calls an old cliche. I didn't invent that. Thinking outside the box.
Okay.
All right, well, everything in the universe, that's why it's called the universe, is connected with everything else in the universe.
Okay. Listen, Zay, excuse me. We appreciate the fact that you did call and you are a first-time caller, and there is a protocol that we use, and you were allowed to extend that because you are a first-time caller. But it would be wise, and this is just as a suggestion, that you follow that code in this response, and that ask one question at a time. Give Mr. Fuller a chance to to answer your question, and perhaps, he may give you a chance for a follow-up. And the reason why he does it, I was getting ready to say, is because we want to avoid confusion. We want to avoid confusion. Now, we appreciate your call, and we thank you for calling. And that way we can get other calls on. So, as I always tell every new caller, if I can, don't be a stranger, and thank you for calling in. Listen, we are way overdue, so we have to take a break. Terrence, I'm going to get to you afterwards. Zay, again, thanks for calling. All righty, let's do this break here. You're listening to the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we thank you for doing that. Listen, this is the call-in number right here, 516-453-9921. Press the number 1 button if you have a question or a brief comment. Remember, we can only take one question at a time, and give Mr. Fuller an opportunity to answer your question. And occasionally he will ask you, or, did that answer your question? That gives you a chance for a follow-up. But remember that there are other people on the line, and there are other Gmails that we are going to get to it. The book that Mr. Fuller would love for everybody to get, if possible, is the book right here, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. You really do, as a suggestion, need to get this book, and you can get it by going to producejustice.com. It's a reference, it's a manual on what to do and what not to do in the struggle against racism, which is white supremacy. You need to understand that if you listen to Mr. Fuller when he opens up the program, and every program that I've been on, and even this one today. You know, he always says, if you don't understand white supremacy, what racism, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. So that's why it's important to have this book, to have this guide, and then live it the best way you can. All righty. Okay. Mr. Fuller, I understand the shows that he did on the Carl Nelson Show are up on the website at producejustice.com, producejustice.com. And MS, you know what? You got that priority status, so you can call in at any time. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Walker in New York. Thank you. All righty. I believe that's it, so let's go. He's been waiting for a minute. And we got him. Terrence says here, Sacramento. Let's see if I can get you in here, Terrence. Okay. All right, Terrence, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, gentlemen. So I have a comment and a question. Mr. Fuller, I talked to you gentlemen about, both of you gentlemen, about maybe 3 to 4 weeks ago, and I appreciate everything that was said. And I am still learning. And I just want you to know that I implemented what you were telling me about 4 weeks ago, and it worked. And so I just want to say thank you for that. I appreciate it. And my question is, I ordered the 3-book bundle, and I haven't received it yet. I ordered it in May, so I haven't received it yet. So I was wondering when that was coming. And I know, Mr. Bobby, you had said that it was coming. And it's been about 2.5 weeks. I just want to know, give me an update on it, because when I try to log back into the website, Produce Justice, it doesn't let me log in. So I don't know what's going on.
Okay. What I can say is that the higher-ups are listening to this program and listening to you. And to my understanding, and I believe I can speak for Mr. Fuller, to his understanding, those issues have been or will be resolved, and refunds have been or were issued. I don't know what the problem is, but is there anything that we can do, Mr. Fuller, in that you and I were both told that those issues were solved and that refunds were being made, books were being sent out, and people could reapply to get their books? And he's saying that he didn't get his. Is there anything that you could say or do about that?
What he's doing right now, according to the code itself, is he made this contact right now, which means I have to figure out with the people I'm connected with why this keeps being said. Otherwise, I want this whole operation stopped. This is off the hook crazy. It's certainly not compensatory. It should not be happening. That's what I'm saying about it. So it's my duty. I'm making promises that I'm not keeping. So I shouldn't even be on this program. This whole thing should stop right this minute. If people are not getting their books and they're paying for them, so that's my duty. And I absolutely appreciate people calling in and saying so, that their transactions are not being appreciated or something, or the usual suspects, the white supremacists, are doing something I don't know about, but I know about it when I know about it, and I know about it right this minute.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to get on this as
okay.
soon as I get off the air. And that's
Alrighty.
the best thing I can say to everybody who is waiting to call in to tell me that they're having this problem.
Okay.
Otherwise, I have no business. I don't have any business in existence.
Okay. Right. Okay, let me say this to you, Mr. Fuller, and let me say this to you, Terrence. I am going to keep you on the line because as Mr. Fuller was talking, I was contacted. You couldn't hear, but I could hear. I was contacted by one of the people that are in charge of that, and I'm going to keep your number up, and I believe that they're going to contact you and get to the bottom of why you did not receive the information. So I'm going to keep you on, and then they're going to get on. They're going to get on that. And when they do, Tara, this is what I want you to do. When that happens, I need for you to call me back or call the show back and let us know that it's been resolved or what was said to you so that we can get to the bottom of what's going on. You think you can do that, sir? Hello? Hello,
yes.
Terrence? You think
yes,
you can
sir,
do that?
I'm here. I think
good.
I can do that. I can definitely do that.
I'm going to keep you on, and then, like I said, somebody was already in my ear and told me and I told them that your number was up on the screen and that they're going to handle that. And when they do, just give me a call back, okay?
You want me to give you a call back today, or you want me to give you a call back?
Well, just let me know the resolve on that.
I will.
That issue.
I will definitely call.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I will definitely call.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Very much.
Thank you again, Mr. Fuller. I appreciate you guys.
All righty. So I'm going to keep
Yes,
your number, keep you up. All righty. Anybody have any issue, please, because we want to get that resolved. You already heard what Mr. Fuller said about that. This is serious business here. This is not a joke. This is not a plaything. This is serious business about getting this done here. Okay, Mr. Walker, that's what it says here. Walker, let me see if I can get you in here. Yeah, there we go. There you go.
Come on.
All right, Mr. Walker.
Hey, good morning,
you
Mr.
got
Bobby.
some background noise here that makes it difficult, so you're going to have to cease that one. So go ahead, please.
Can you hear me better now, Mr. Bobby?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Is it okay? I have a VGQ and a question for Mr. Fuller today.
Yeah. Go ahead with your VGQ. Yeah.
All right. My VGQ today is that when I ordered the book, I didn't have no problem with getting the book to me. I got it within 2 weeks after I ordered it. I don't know whether it was because I was located in like a certain state, but I was in Pennsylvania at the time, and I got the book within 2 weeks after I ordered it. It was a very speedy delivery, and I still have it.
All right.
And my question for Mr. Fuller is, according to the code, what is the system of white supremacy? And I would like to stay online, Mr. Bobby. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
This is in the textbook that you say you have. White supremacy is a system of mistreatment in order to gain or to satisfy people who are classified as white their wants. And they are willing to mistreat people based on the color of their skin to get what they want. And what are the things that all creatures want? All creatures, not just people, but even worms and snails and elephants and birds. What do they want? They want three things. They want fun. They want glory. What is fun? Well, anything that a person or a creature thinks is fun. That's an example. I see squirrels, sometimes chasing each other. They're not trying to harm each other. They're just having fun. That's what I would consider it. They may consider it something else, but it looks like they're having fun doing it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. That's the logic. And the other thing is glory, being appreciated by someone, some creature. You know, a person buys a dog or a cat. Why? Because the dog or the cat appreciates the person who has purchased me. They get a little glory out of that. That's what it's called. That's number 2. And number 3 is material comfort. In other words, this person can help make me be comfortable, physically and mentally. So the white supremacists have set up a system so they can get those 3 things. They've discovered that. People have always wanted things. So you say, why do they want to mistreat people? Because they have color in their skin. For one thing, they found out that a thing called racism will produce that. You know, they had other ideas, and all of it is a form of what you call royalism, which means I'm better than everybody else.
Yeah.
Or better than something else. All right. So that's what it's really all about. Very fundamental. Very simple, really. Somebody discovered, hey, if we do all the world's business and we have absolute control over it, and we do the world's business based on the color of people's skins, and we get what we want more than any type of system that we have thought of yet, why not do it? So they tried it. It might have started off with just a conversation between a couple of white people. Presumably, it had to, I think, logically speaking. Saying, hey, Mac, for example, what do you think would happen if we tried doing all the world's business based on what color somebody is? What do you think of that? And you say, well, Fred, what are you talking about? I say, just what I just said. And that we be in charge of the whole world the way it is now and for the foreseeable future if we plan it correctly and we can make it work. We did everything that we ever wanted to do. Anything that we wanted to do that ever came to mind, we did it on the basis of what color somebody's skin was. And the first person responding to that question might have said, oh, come on, Mac, that's crazy. Said, but think about it. And we can, let's try it. We've tried all kinds of other things and whatnot. We've had slaves. But suppose we made slavery based on color. That would be something new, wouldn't it? Yeah, it would be new, but do you think that people would go for it? Would they even understand what you're talking about? Hey, let's try it. So apparently, according to the evidence and an answer to the question, they tried it, and it took off like a rocket. And it has turned out to be the most successful, most powerful form of government that recorded history has ever recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And the evidence shows it.
The evidence shows it.
White supremacy.
White supremacy.
That's the only government that counts on the planet here in the year 2024. There's no other government.
The evidence shows it, too.
And the evidence shows it.
That's right.
Not an American government, nothing else. The system of white supremacy. That's it.
Asked that. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, I asked that question to a few people. As a matter of fact, I was on another radio program, and I asked that question: what is the only worldwide government that's in effect right now, according to the evidence?
Yes.
Yeah. According to the evidence, and logically speaking, what is it?
Yeah, don't believe a word that Neely Fuller ever says.
And that's exactly
go
what
by the evidence.
Yeah, evidence. All righty. And not because you said it, it's because the evidence says it. All righty. Talif, Youngstown. Oh, up in the yo. Yeah. Hey, Gerard is 2-0, by the way. Go ahead, Talif. Go ahead, brother.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fuller. Hope everybody's well. Well, one thing I want to preface it by saying I can reiterate what the one brother said. I have never had a problem getting the books, and I have actually got them for other people. So maybe it's just a glitch, or maybe the usual suspects just don't want us to get the word, because you can go on YouTube and watch all kind of crazy ratchet stuff and stuff that you shouldn't be seeing you get, but stuff that you should get you don't. So I don't know, maybe that's it. Also, I missed the show. I didn't miss the show last week. I couldn't call in. I was on several conference calls.
We didn't have a show last week, so you're good.
Okay. So, yeah, I was on a few conference calls. My son and I, we picked up some more business. We were talking to some business owners. But anyway, Mr. Fuller said something. I don't know if it was the show before that you didn't have last week, but he mentioned something about him being fear. I don't know if he can't remember if he used the word scared. Well, my philosophy on that is the only person you can scare or put fear in are those of us that think they're going to live forever. But that's just me.
I think it was fear. I think that's what he said. But anyway, go ahead.
Mr. Fuller, you talked about them creating the world, with just people of color. Well, if you go back and look at this theory, something that Pope Nicholas did, it's called Dum Diversas, DIVERSAS, and also the Doctrine of Discovery. That will explain a lot to you how the Catholics at the Roman Empire at that time created a bunch of this stuff. But anyway, I want to say, Mr. Fuller, I heard something in Mr. Bobby. I don't remember who sent me the clip, but there was a judge in the courtroom, and there was a guy in there for assaulting so-called white, so-called European, or whatever you want to call him. He assaulted another person. So his defense was I was defending myself, and he says, in America, you have a right to defend yourself. And this was a so-called white judge, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby. He says, America is not in my courtroom. He says, this is a courtroom. You physically assaulted another person. He said, what does that have to do with America? And he said, and if I find that video, Mr. Bobby, I'm going to email it to you. And this judge said,
that'll be fine. All right.
And he says, America will never exist until we start treating each other better. And I was kind of taken aback by that. And I'm going to find that clip and see who that judge was or is, and try to get in touch with him and say, are you listening to Mr. Fuller? But anyway, I'm kind of blunt, Mr. Fuller, so, and I say what I say, but I was having, and I'm going to make it brief. There's a woman that has a podcast called the Standard of Truth podcast, and she believes in Christianity and everything. So she made a statement one time. She made a statement saying that even the non-believers, even those people are, stating that the government politics, is crooked. So I kind of replied and said, are you saying that people that don't believe in that so-called religion that you call, then they're not smart enough to understand what's going on because it's not coming from a godly view like you say? So somebody replied, well, that Bible that they talk about, that the Europeans printed, talked about us. And my response, Mr. Fuller, was, so you're telling me that the melanated people at one time, that you say we had these great civilizations, we call ourselves kings and queens, but you're going to take this religion and these beliefs that we started, and you let somebody of another skin tone repackage it and rebrand it and give it back to you, and you've been getting your butt kicked with it ever since. And I asked, what's the logic of that? And I know, Mr. Fuller, you said we should never question people, but do you think I answered that question properly?
Well, you said so many things. What was the question?
I'm saying if we supposed to come from all these great civilizations, we're kings and queens.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me make this clear. The question is, now go ahead, slowly.
Okay. If we come from all these great civilizations, we're kings and queens,
wait a minute,
melanated people. If all this stuff was created by us, why is everybody else giving it back to us and kicking our butt with it?
Well, that's a question that somebody can answer. Let me see if I understand this question. If I understand the question, there are people who, in times previous to this time, produce something that is useful, I guess, and other people have taken what we invented, I guess that's the question, and used that invention to do great harm to the people who invented it. Well, that's just the mathematics of the universe. I mean, I use a plow or an axe or a sledgehammer or a pair of tweezers. Well, these things can be used to help somebody, the things themselves, or they can be used, if a person desires to harm somebody. That's just the mathematics of the universe. So that applies to anything. Why would a person do it? Well, then that comes down to just one question. Why does one person harm another? That's the basic question, the way I understand it. Now, if that's not the answer to the question, then I'll have to come up with an answer, because from what I'm hearing right now, the answer to the question is, why is a person taking anything? If I understand the question.
Okay.
That somebody else produced and using it against anybody.
Good question.
Why do people do what they do? That is harmful.
That is harmful.
I mean, that's the way I understand the question that's being asked.
And that's okay.
Why do people do things that are harmful to other people?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think that's the question.
Well,
so that's the way I'm answering that question.
Okay. Let me interject.
But I want to make sure that I'm answering the question. That's what this program is about.
Talif, as far as that's concerned, because I am up against the clock, is that answer satisfactory for you at this particular time?
Oh yeah, the answer is a good answer. But my point was, why are we bragging about something that we have no control over today? That was my point, Mr. Fuller.
Oh, that's how. Okay, well, that was a question in the first place.
Okay.
You didn't say that before. That's not a criticism, just an observation, because it's hard for me to understand questions. That's obvious to everybody that listens to this program.
All right, Talib. Hey, Talib, thank you so much, and thank you for the materials that you that you sent. And by the way, just a little joke. There's more than one way to get to Cincinnati. I was speaking about what you were speaking about the trust and the wills and what you had done for your son. I relayed that information. So thank you, Talib.
Okay.
Thank you. All righty. Listen, I've got to make this correction. I've got to make this statement, Mr. Fuller. I was just told. This is for Terrence. Terrence, the department just told me. Now listen to this very carefully, Terrence. They told me, because they checked the record. This is for you also, Mr. Fuller. They checked the record, and you received, or you were refunded, a refund for the books on August the 5th, 2024. Now, according to what I was told, now you could have moved or may have moved, but it was done. It was done. They got the records of it right there, that they shipped it out. You were entitled to a refund, so that's the go on with that. So I don't know what you would do with that information, with that, but that's what happened on that. You were issued that, and I don't know if you received it or not, but it was out. They got the records. Now you hear that, Mr. Fuller? They have the department has the records that Terrence was issued a refund on his books. Now it would be up to him if he wanted to reapply to get that, and that's already set up for him. But that's done. That's done. That's done. Okay, now as far as Talif is concerned, that information that you gave about the Roman Catholic Church, I believe, Talif, that was under, and I did mention it the week before last, some of that was mentioned at the Council of Nicaea under Constantine. I think they may have named the city Constantinople, in which at that time the dictator Constantine, took out 14 books. Among them was the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees and a lot of other books, and came up with what we now have, or what they now have, as the 66 books of the Bible. That's what they did then. That's documented, by the way, at 325. I was getting ready to say BC, but I think it was 325 AD. That was done, and you already know the rest of the story, how that has all over the world in what they did. That's documented. Now, don't believe anything that I just said. Look it up, research it, get some intelligence on that to see if it's true or not true. That's what they did. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Talif. All right. Hey, I'm way over time, so let me do this. Let me give you a break here. You're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we are so delighted and just extremely happy that you are. Now, to get in contact with the show, here is the number right here, 516-453-9921. That's the number you get. You have a question, please, ma'am, please, sir. Press the number 1 button. Now, you know the protocol. Ask your question. Give Mr. Fuller a chance to answer your question, because you know that he is going to use examples because we want to be clear. He wants to be clear on what is said to eliminate confusion. There's already enough confusion going around in the world today. So remember that. The book you can get by going to producejustice.com, producejustice.com, and somebody up in there is on it for refunds or issue books. It's all done. It's all together now, so you should not have any problems with that. And you make sure that you check your records to make sure what's going on, if you moved or whatever. But that's a done deal. So make sure that you do that. Okay, 516-453-9921 is the number that you called. Let me do this. Okay. I was going to say something else, but okay, Terrence, did you get that information?
I did get it, and I am going to double-check my bank account. I haven't seen it, but I'm going to double-check it. Maybe I missed it. So I will double-check it just to see if it's in there.
Okay. All right.
But if it is in there, then I do still want to order those 3 books. That's what I ordered.
And you can. You can.
Yes.
That's already set up for you to do that, yes. Okay. All right, Terrence.
Okay.
Well, hey, let us know anyway, Let us know what's going on, because Mr. Fuller is very concerned about that, because that's his reputation that's on the line, okay?
Yes,
all right.
Of course. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yes.
For the last caller who didn't have a question, that he definitely hasn't read the book, because what he was trying to cause confusion. That was kind of unprofessional on his end, not your end, Mr. Bobby. You're always professional, as always. But the last caller, Mr. Fuller, answered his question perfectly. He never asked a question. So, okay, you brothers have a good day, and
all right,
I will
thank you.
definitely check it and reorder the book.
All right,
I
appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Talifa's still on. Okay, Talif still got that message there, because, I checked it out even before you had mentioned it about Talif. See, a lot of people don't research and read, and you have to understand that don't just take anything that I say or Mr. Fuller says, and Mr. Fuller will tell you that. Research it and see if it's true or not true. That's all you have to do. And then, do your due diligence on that. That's all. That's all you got to do. Okay, wait a minute. Zay is back. And then we'll go to Victor. I think it is Zay. Let me see here. Zay in D.C. Okay, Zay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm doing my research with the ISIS papers, and I just had 1 or 2 questions from a woman's perspective.
It can only be one question, Zay. One. Okay.
So when you say racist white supremacists, right? As a woman, is it kind of redundant from our perspective, because maybe patriarchal white supremacy, because racism is already implied with the white supremacy? Do you see what I'm saying? And what would be your comparison of white supremacy to patriarchy? That's all. Sorry.
Okay, hang on, Mr. Fuller.
If I understand the question, black supremacy, what is the difference? If I understand the question, should we have white supremacy or black supremacy, or what is the difference between the two? Well, for one thing, you can't have black supremacy in the same universe with white supremacy at the same time. And you shouldn't have any type of mistreatment, because that's all it is, if it's based on color, of any person at any time, regardless of what the colors are. Racism should not be practiced at any time by anybody for any reason. That's the code. And so I guess that's the answer. If I understand the question, should we have black supremacy or should we have white supremacy? If that is the question. And the answer is neither. You should have people guaranteed that they won't be mistreated, and people guaranteed that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help each and every minute of each and every day. That's the solution to all of this, of what we call this what, Fuller? Problems among people. Just guarantee that nobody's mistreated. You need a system that does that. Guarantee that nobody, under any circumstance, is mistreated. You got to have that. And the other part is guarantee that the person who needs help the most gets the most constructive help. If it's just 10 people on the planet, you just ask those 2 questions. Is anybody being mistreated? It's just 10 of us. Is anybody of us 10 being mistreated in any area of activity? Hold up your hand if you got them, okay? Or say something, or have somebody speak for you. And then take care of that question, and then you move to the second question, which is the procedure. Is anybody here who needs help? It's just 10 people on the planet. And the person, all 10 might hold up their hand. Okay? So you say, all right, the next question now is who needs help the most out of the 10, since everybody needs help. So you keep asking questions and find that out, and you take care of the person that needs help the most first. That is the whole code in a nutshell, if you want to use that expression. Everything that I have written, everything that anybody else writes, those are the questions. Just 3, the basic questions, if I understand the question that I am being asked. Black supremacy, white supremacy, well, both of them is a form of mistreatment. Of course, you're talking about racism based on color. Anybody mistreated for any reason. The remedy is the guarantee that no person is mistreated.
That's right.
And the guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. That's why all this controversy about reparations, just use that as the guide. White, non-white. Let's just straighten this out in one swoop. All this patchwork stuff, in my opinion, and in the codified way, it's just going to be more and more and more trying to remedy something with patchwork stuff. And patches come loose.
And patches come loose.
You want something that will not come loose, period.
That's it. All right.
It's called justice.
Called justice. All right, thank you, Zay. Special good morning and welcome back to Justice Warrior. And Solars J27, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Okay, wait a minute. I thought I saw a dollar bill up here. I did. Okay. Okay, well, we got some calls in here. Okay, you've got to make it fast here. Dollar bill. Yeah, thank you, Jay from D.C. Don't be a stranger again. Okay, Dollar Bill, let me see if I can get you in here. Dollar Bill and Victor, yeah, we got you down there too. Okay, Dollar Bill, quickly, what's going on?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you,
yes, sir.
Mr. Fuller. Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Just wanted to say this. Mr. Fuller, what you just said, that's a beautiful thing, but it ain't going to happen in an imperfect world. And if that was the case, that you're aiming for just justice, then the fact of the matter is, then there should be no reason to talk about racism anymore. Because the bottom line is, what you're saying is that everybody has to act a certain way to reach a certain point in giving everyone justice. If that's not the case where everybody's in on it, Mr. Fuller, it's not going to happen. So I'm kind of disappointed right now because now I'm just saying, like, even with this thing in reparations in California, black people came out against that. So I don't think that it is racism anymore. I think it's just, we need to treat each other better. And I'll land my plane right there.
All righty. VGQ. Thank you, Dollar Bill. Thank you very much. That's Dollar Bill from New York. Let's go to Christopher quickly in Richmond. Christopher Richmond, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead with your question.
Hello, you two. So I've heard Neely say that the system has been perfected in between the 60s and the 70s. Could you elaborate more on why you think it was perfected around that time?
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
The question is, why do I think the system was perfected? What system?
The system of white supremacy, why do you think it was perfected in between the 60s and the 70s?
I never said that according to everything I've ever said. And if I did say that, that's not true. And I should not have said anything that's not true. But I don't recall ever having said that the system of white supremacy was perfected in any particular time frame. I don't know when it was perfected, because I don't know when it got started. To the best of my knowledge, and if I ever said that, that was a mistake in me saying that.
Mm-hmm. Do you know when it was said?
I don't know when white supremacy started, and I've never known it the time that it was perfected. I guess the white supremacists know, because it's their system.
Okay.
But I don't know that much about white supremacy.
Okay. Do you know when it was, Christopher?
Say it one more time, Mr. Bob.
Do you know when it? Yeah, because there's background noise here. Do you know when he allegedly said this? Do you recall?
I think it was on the Cows broadcast. I think it was in like the 2014-15-ish. And you didn't say it was perfected. I'm going to restate that. I think you said that it was just about perfected in between the 60s and the 70s.
Do you recall that, Mr. Fuller, just about perfected?
No, I don't recall saying that. I may have said it. I mean, apparently, I think about what I have said and what I haven't.
I think
my reaction is I appreciate being told that I said it.
Well, I think that there was a lot of like racial classification confusion in between the 60s and the 70s. So I was thinking maybe you were talking about that, but perhaps not.
Okay. All right. Well, clarification. All right, Christopher, thank you so much for your call, and you don't be a stranger. You don't be a stranger either. Okay, be good. Well, I think I'm having Mr. Fuller address that, but before I do, thank you, Christopher. Let's see here. Wait a minute. Let me see here. Victor. Let's get to Victor in here. Victor from Canada. Go ahead with your question for Mr. Fuller.
Oh, hi, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. I had a question. Is the system of racism, in particular the Northern Hemisphere, is its number one target for attack? Is it the black male?
I don't know what the white supremacists think is the number one target, because only they know that, what their number one target is. But I think everything that they do is connected with everything else that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So they do everything that has to do with black people, period. So the answer is I don't know what their number one target is. I just know that they, broadly speaking, want to be sure that black people are dominated by the system of white supremacy 24/7 in every area of activity, all of the time, no exceptions.
Yep.
And that's according to the evidence. That's why it's called supreme when it comes to black people and or people whom they classify as non-white. That every move that non-white people make, the white supremacists will have the supreme thoughts, speech, and action.
TSA. TSA.
Yes.
Thought, speech, and action. Okay. All righty. Let me see. Let me address this. This is from Rashida. Now, this is what she did. Rashida asked 3 questions, and these 3 questions have... I'm hearing some noise in the background. I don't know who that's from. It's not from this end because I haven't tuned anybody in. But anyway, Rashida's asked 3 questions, Mr. Fuller, and of those 3 questions, she has an A, B, and an ABC. So, as I think I told her that I would only ask them. I couldn't ask them all at the same time because that would constitute what, 9 questions or 8 questions altogether. But anyway, I'll do this. But she did say thank you. Okay, Rashida, here we go. She says, I previously sent these questions to contact email on producejustice.com website and wanted to ensure my questions reach Mr. Fuller for next week's broadcast. I also hope to call in. Call in, Rashida. But anyway, here's the first question she has. It's under number 1, early experiments, and these are experiences. This is A, B, and C. This is number 1, and this is A. Mr. Fuller, as a young child and throughout your formative years, what did being black mean to you?
It means being mistreated by people classified as white in all things that I was involved in.
Okay. All right. B. Mr. Fuller, how old were you when you became aware of the impact of racism and white supremacy on you?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember when I was aware of it. I can't say the specific moment or incident. I don't remember. I can't give you a date, or it just happened. And
alrighty.
And it may have been a gradual thing, a number of things that came, so the time frame is somewhere it started happening.
Okay.
I was aware.
All right. And the last question under early experiences is this. This is C. What happened and what were the circumstances of your burgeoning awareness?
I don't know the answer to that question either, because I don't know how much burden, when the burden began to really become a burden. I can't say what day, what month, what year, what time frame, or anything. I just became aware that I was a person who was marked to be mistreated based on my color. I just became aware of it. And I think, but the time frame, I can't say.
Okay.
See, because I have to talk on this program and really every day like I'm in court.
Yes, exactly.
And so right now I'm being judged, all right, on my answers to a question. And so my answer would have to be if I'm going to be truthful, I was just aware whenever I was aware, but I'm not aware of when it was.
Okay.
It's the time frame. See.
Okay. Somebody had mentioned in the chat. He said that in 1957. He said that in the Army, 1957 in the Japan mountains. I don't know. All right. Well, anyway, that's what just came across on the chat. We'll just put it this way. Okay. Number 2. This is 2A. Number 2. Your influences on Dr. Cress-Welsing. Here's A. Mr. Fuller, why did you decide to invest time in having intellectual conversations with Dr. Welsing?
Oh, Dr. Wilson herself explained how we met. We were at a meeting here in Washington, D.C., and I was looking for somebody to talk to about my ideas. And she was the only person in the room at that time, at that particular meeting, who said that she was interested in my ideas and that she would like to be in contact with me to follow up on the things that I was saying. She said because to her, the things that I was saying was different from the things that she was hearing from anybody. So I just started talking to her because she was the only person I could find that would listen and wanted to hear more. And that's how it all got started, if I'm answering that question correctly. That's how did me and Dr. Wilson get started in the first place? How did I get to know her? That was it. I was talking to several people, and they were what I was saying, and kind of listening and half listening. Okay. And so then they drift over to somebody else who was saying things, and it was just kind of a loose thing. Just people just kind of hanging around, really, talking about their viewpoints. Okay. And I was one of them. And that was all. That's how it all got started.
Okay, last question. Go ahead,
yes.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, last question before we close out today's show. This is C, but C has 3 questions, but I'll ask one. What did you two fundamentally agree on? And I'll leave it right there and then ask other ones later. Go ahead.
We agreed on there was a system of white supremacy, fundamentally. And she says that herself. See, I can only refer to what Dr. Wilson herself said. She said, I was the first person that she heard talk who said I was explaining that this whole thing about racism, white supremacy, that it is a system. And that's what most people didn't realize. They just said, well, he's prejudiced, or she's this, or she's that. No, this is a very carefully planned system. And that was the point that she got from me. Okay. Well, I'd been saying it, but people were hearing and half hearing, and that still happens, even today. I keep saying, right. It's a system. It's a system. And it's not even personal. It's a business system. You know?
Okay. Well, I got to leave it there because the clock on the wall is cutting down to seconds. So we'll ask even more. Rashida, I'll ask even more. Everybody else, forgive me for any mistakes we made. Don't forget to go to producejustice.com. We will try to get better, try to answer all. We couldn't all get it in, but we will do better next time. Forgive me all of my mistakes. Producejustice.com for the book. Mr. Fuller, the last word to you.
The last word to me is get that will and you can find how to get it cheaply.
Yeah.
There are even organizations will practically do it for nothing.
All righty.
All right.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
You help your friends with everything, whether it's practicing for an interview, planning their baby shower, and even remodeling their kitchen. Why wouldn't you help them when they're hurting? If you know someone who may have mental health problems, let them know support is available, online or in person, with no wait list or financial worry. Visit counselingalberta.com for more information. Because if friends won't help friends, who will?
When it's time to play, it's easy to find your next favorite game with Bodog. Play free casino games, get poker tips, and check out the latest sports odds. Visit Bodog.net today. #MakeAPlay.